So here it is. As you can see, the motor's in, far from being done. I got a whole bunch of work I gotta figure out. As you can see, I got a PSC pulley. It's one of the undersized ones, more pressure, more flow, and all that happy good stuff. It actually kind of looks like a white wall tire here. It's because when the V6 was in, it hit this fitting. And while I was out there flogging on this thing on the track, the fitting actually started to move on its own, too loose, and rubbed up against this. And I have no idea how long this thing was rubbing up against it while I was racing. Bad juju. So that's one of the things I have to address, fix, make sure it's not going to happen again. I mean, clearly it's way too far away to hit now, but I got to make sure, watch out for that sort of thing. I got to do something with this bracket here. I'm thinking about maybe chopping the top of it off or going with some kind of an aftermarket bracket just because it's ugly. I don't like it. My reservoir here used to sit up against the firewall. I'm going to be changing that. I'm going to try and get it closer to the pump, either mount it off of the tower or off of this bracket or make a new bracket or something. Figure that part out. As far as the intake system, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I have a computer, I have a harness, and a friend of mine has programming capabilities to run all this stuff. The reason I originally went with the Null 31 is because of this intake and because of the ECU and because of the harness and the simplicity, the relative simplicity of it all. I'm not sure if I want to go that route now. I don't know if I want to just throw my TPI on there and just get rid of this junk, or just keep this and use it for now until I start doing things with the motor. I don't know what I should do. What do you think? Let me know. This is all going to stay just the way it is. There's nothing wrong with it. It works just fine. I don't have any high demand issues or uses or needs for more power out of the alternator, so I'm going to be leaving this alone. When I deleted the AC, I rerouted my belt system and I put an idler pulley here, and I might have a picture of it somewhere, but anyways, I looped it around that way and it works fine. I never had an issue with it. I'm going to keep it that way. One of the biggest issues that I'm running into right now is how do I get an exhaust manifold here? I have an idea how to fix it, or at least how to get the intake manifold in. Looking at the video from when I pulled the motor, I kind of put the motor in this way and rocked it back into its place. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to lift the motor back out, put 1 or 2 bolts in the manifold, and just try and see if I can finagle my way into there. If that doesn't work, I'm going to have to come up with something. I might even have to make a new tower. That's going to suck, and that'll probably kill my trip. Trying to avoid that. One of the other things that I'm going to be doing while the whole front end's off of this thing and part of the motor job is I'm going to be pulling the dash and the wiring and all that happy crap out of there and redoing it all. Well, also while I'm doing that, I'm going to be tying the cage into the tower, into a front bumper. I might make a new tube shroud for the radiator, maybe see if I can run a larger radiator and kind of cant it, lean it backward, put bigger fans on it, more cooling. I have to plug this hole. I gotta plug this hole, that hole, and maybe that one over there yet. I don't know if I need to or have to. But this one lets in tons of hot air into the cab, and it just sucks for whoever's driving shotgun. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whoever the hell rides shotgun in this thing or has ridden shotgun in this thing while I was like that. I should have never done it. Another thing I'm going to be doing too is there's a crossbar in the cage. I'm going to go through the firewall and bolt to the back of the heads too. Just to keep the motor from moving. I'm going to have solid mounts on the transmission and the motor mounts. I really don't want to run a motor plate, but I figure if I do the bolts to the back of the heads, that'll keep this thing pretty firm. I'm probably also going to put more bracing on the transfer case just to stiffen that up. When we were out on the track last year at St. John's in a dirt riot race, I actually just plowed that way through a corner and went off course, and I don't know what I hit, but it was a pretty good smack. And immediately after the hit, I had no steering. I'm like, well, I got full hydro. I should have no problem steering this thing. What the hell's going on? And we're sitting there checking it out, looking around. We couldn't find anything. Nothing was broken. Everything was there. It just, if you put any input into it, it just would not move. It started to free up a little bit, freed up enough so we can limp it back to the pit. And when I got back to the pit and started looking around, there's a joint back here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the rod had actually traveled up into the joint and was binding on the joint. So when it would get to that sweet spot, no steering. How in the hell did that happen? I think I bent the frame. It was a pretty hard smack. I mean, if I hadn't had my belt on, it probably would have thrown me from the car. One of the other problems that I had with this thing when I was out there racing and crawling, or pretty much ever since I got this thing running, and I forget about it every single time until I get out there, is the seat brackets in this thing. I adopted the stock seat brackets to these aftermarket seats that I have in here. Every time I hit a bump, the seat would scoot back one click. So if I ever went down like a washboard road, I'm sitting there going further and further out. Next thing you know, I'm like, Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones! I gotta fix that. I think once we start doing the tube work in here and tying the front end into the cage, I'm gonna kind of finish off the encapsulation of the driver's cockpit area. I started on it on the passenger side, never did anything on the driver's side, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up getting rid of the stock brackets and then run some tube work and tabs and tab the seats off of that, just because what's in there now is junk, and I really wanted to go wheeling last year, and now I'm kind of paying the price for it. Yeah, well, it's life's a what?